real quickly, like a very common misunderstanding of boundaries I've mentioned, but I think I'll keep mentioning because it's worth mentioning. I keep hearing it from you people, and it's this: it is not a boundary. It is not a boundary to say I told them to stop and they don't stop it. I'm mad at them. I told them to quit. I told them they shouldn't do that. Well, it's kind of a boundary, but that really should you're just a critical parent. So to articulate a boundary is not to tell a person there's something wrong with you. You need to stop doing that. That is not to articulate a boundary. To articulate a boundary is to say, here's the limit of what I will tolerate. That's it. So by analogy, I have a lawn, and if I go to my neighbor's lawn and I go, and I said, you shouldn't cut mine. You should walk in my lawn. And don't you know? Instead, I'd walk them and go, this is where my boundary stops, and this is where it starts. That's it. So that's just as much beer cans as I'll tolerate. We used to have people work housemates who routinely had beer cans, and so I may have thrown them back over to them all. But if I had I gone up to them, they were college kids and beer bottles everywhere. My kids are out there playing, so I just popped up like over the fence. That's what I would tolerate. So your beer bottles can go that far. What I don't say, now you shouldn't do that. What's wrong with you? Why'd you throw your trash? You just turn to a critical parent. That's not boundaries. You just turn to a parent or a nag or a bully. We want to make sure all those know this is where my limit is, and I don't tolerate beer bottles on my side. So if you keep doing that, then I will do this. Not a threat. Like I'm just letting you know I don't tolerate that. So that's just establishing a boundary. Does that make sense? So when you're going in the world and someone fusses you, does something wrong. A boundary is not when you start fussing at them. You shouldn't do that. What's wrong with you? I establish a good boundary. No. You try to control them. Does that make sense to you? There's a big difference. One seeks to control, so they stop it. And one says, this is where I'm over. Okay. Healthy boundaries with the self. Jesus assumed that it's our moral duty to love our neighbor based on how we love ourselves. When you love yourself, sisters and brothers in dear Christ, you steward yourself well and you love and care for yourself well, which means you practice saying a word to yourself often. No. No, I won't do that. No, I can't do that. No, I ought not do that. That's just called self-control. When you have a hard time saying no, you probably have an internal boundary problem. An internal boundary problem. So to say it again from last week, one of the signs that you love yourself is that you practice healthy, good internal boundaries. One of the signs when I meet people in therapy for 20 years that they don't love themselves well is they have poor internal boundaries. I would call them false boundaries when they don't exist. And so that's a sign of not loving yourself well. Now, if you suffer from shame, even just saying that right now makes you feel guilty and bad. And I know a piece of junk. Please ask your shaming part to take a deep breath and relax. But we don't need to hear from your shaming part for at least 50 more minutes. The goal now was just to listen and figure out why do I do these things? And do I do these things? Let's think about why we do them and what it's healthy look like. So, for example, on the bottom of page 12, it's a quick review again. Eating is a very common self-control problem, internal boundary problem. You do it for various reasons. We talked about for food. So the top of 13, to put a summary on it, what was positive? So that was, I had a bunch of negative and a little bit of positive. The positive is loving yourself means understanding that food is fuel to be used within a healthy limit and not as a substitute for dealing with emotional issues. If you struggle with this area, if you do struggle, you're supposed to ask, what am I truly hungry for? What pain am I avoiding? That's how you get to the heart of why you keep repeating any type of food addiction or food rescue operation. Loving yourself means I treat it as fuel. It's not a crutch. Money, the same thing. At the bottom of that, loving yourself means recognize that money is a tool. It's not identity. It's not the source of security. It's just a means by which we care for our own needs and for our neighbor's needs when it's appropriate. Ask, am I spending to escape, impress, avoid, manipulate, or control? And the answer is yes to any of these questions, then that's an internal boundary problem. We ask, why am I doing that? You might need to go to therapy and figure out, I need to get to the root of why I'm showing doing that. Why does it matter to me so much that they think I am smart? or rich or whatever it is. Let's use money as an example. Rich or I'm stylish. Why am I trying to escape things all the time? Why am I trying to hoard this stuff? Why does that make me feel good? What about time? On page 14, I said a bunch of negative things. Time is positive. Loving yourself means understanding your time is the primary means by which we're able to fulfill our moral duties on earth. So if you have a problem with time management, you ask, what am I avoiding or gaining by mismanaging my time? You have a hard time saying no to that. I think I stopped there. Is that correct? Thank you. Any question or comments about ABC of common areas? Food, money, time, problem, self-control problem. Any question or comments? That's a good question. So if you got to eat with a group of people and you feel like you need to pay immediately, that's a great question. You know, man, I'm going to say, why do you think so? Why, you know, but it's a good question. You do that. So I mean, I could let's walk whole. I've known people that's happened to me. Praise God, many times who going to pay for my meal, and I've experienced. Sometimes I do the same thing, right? We all do it. I've known people just because they're very wealthy. They're like, I got this, I got this. Yeah, I know, Bonnie, you like to take your millions or rolling. But I've been around, and it feels good for them to like. It's almost like a blessing. Like I've been blessed. I want to take care of this meal. That's happening to me. People take care of the meal. People do it oftentimes feel like I've got to, or I will. You'll think poorly of me. Another one common is I invited you. I have to. Some people are just trained that. I mean, there's a whole list of reasons. I don't think all the reasons. I don't think any reasons for anything are always bad. We just want to explore why. That's all. So we might go because I just love being generous. It's an act of. It's like my love language is gift, and I just gifted you a free meal. That makes me feel good about me, and I like you being happy. And this is a fun. Yeah. So if someone says, "Let's take it together," you don't want to say I'm by myself. You want to say, "I'll just take care of it." Okay. Well, that's worth exploring. Maybe sometime. If you're that curious, I mean, really, that's a good journaling prompt to go to and talk to. It might be a boundary thing. I just wouldn't know until. But seriously, you, right, we're out to pay before you put your credit card. Hold on a second. Let me call David. Feeling anxious. I maybe one tip. I've given this tip to people many, many times. Is with food, money, anything is right before the behavior. Right before you pick up that cigarette, you pay for that credit card, you buy the thing, and take a deep breath and pause before you eat that food and go, why am I doing that? Or let me just pause. Even if you just pause, what do you feel when you pause? Does your anxiety skyrocket? Do you go from a 2 to a 5 or 6 or 7? Do you start feeling scared all of a sudden? You feel sad all of a sudden. If there's a wound, you're going to feel those things. If you don't have those wounds, nothing's going to happen. You're like, oh, I just want to do it. I feel cool. I feel calm. If you're like, no, I gotta. Ooh, let's explore that. Why do you gotta? Does that make sense? So whatever the behavior, doesn't mean it's a sin or it's horrible. It just might mean some wound there to reflect on. So if you pause, how do you feel? Right there in that. Okay, good. Any question or comment? Thank you. Good one. Anybody else? Question or comments about that? Task completion, middle page 14. It can be very difficult to say no to our desire to avoid completing tasks. Some of you are like, I know people. People who struggle to complete tasks often lack internal boundaries, leading to procrastination, avoidance, or inconsistent effort. So common reasons are things like this: resistance to structure. They might think like they might they might think things like this. I don't like being boxed in my deadlines routine. That's probably because you're responding to past control issues or strict authority, like your parents are over demanding. That's a common one. That's when I'm free from my household, and it just I don't wanna. Ugh. There's a rebellious child inside you that finds like I do not like it. I do not like it. I do not like it. And if you keep saying that over and over, you won't like it. You're gonna fight it the rest of your life. I know adults, grown ups, the little babies with grown up bodies, but it's the same thing. They resist it. And I'm almost certain that comes from a childhood issue. Somehow they weren't able to, yeah, not always, but fear of success. If I succeed, people will expect more of me or be jealous of me. So I don't want to do well. I'll do self-sabotage. I'll do mediocre grades. I won't try out as hard. I did well. I always did fine. I did enough. That way I don't get. limelight. I don't want to be known as the person who's, distractibility. People just, I just can't focus. I can't focus, and maybe never learn how to do it. A lot of times you didn't learn how to do it because you lack the discipline to learn how to do it. Focus is a skill set that has to be learned, and you can learn it. You can learn to concentrate better. My wife laughs at me. She all the time. Pray for me. I'm just. She's mean. Okay. I like saying sell that later on. She goes, David said you're mean. David said, oh, she'll laugh at me. She goes, blah 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 blah, and I'll be, Dave, are you listening? Nope. What? Like how you know? I said because you start talking to the kids. My mind's on, like, I have the ability to tune it out, and I can focus on. That took a lot of practice through the years. I can be in the car just to, I mean it. I haven't heard a word you said because I'm able to focus. That took skill. It's not because no, it's not because I don't want to. It's just once I've decided you're not talking to me, I don't have to listen to it. I don't have any desire to be in the know of other people's conversations. Unlike people I do, I'm married, so I can be at a restaurant and not give a rip with the person right beside it. And then my dog said, she said, I do next. I don't give a rip and blames it. I, what are you on about? Did you hear that? Mm-mm. How'd you not hear that? I won't make a joke. Okay, distractibility, sometimes you just can't focus. I notice that in churches a lot of the time. One kid jumps up and down in a worship song. One person raises their hand. One person says amen. One person coughs. Half the church goes, I mean, they just can't. Lord help them. They start dancing more. Look up here, look up here, look up here. Inability to delay gratification. I'm bored. I need something fun. Yeah, you're going to have a hard time with task completion if you think that boredom is an enemy. I've talked to my son about this all of his entire life. It's true. And so I can't tolerate, this is the belief. They've never said it, but it's the belief in them. I can't tolerate being bored. Bored feels uncomfortable. I can't tolerate it. Phone, digital, nap. Oh, they can't. And that has to be learned. Parents have to help our children and adults to go, you've got to learn how to deal with it. In the real world, real healthy adults can do that. But we have a whole generation, a bunch of, I mean, this isn't like a doom. I'm nervous when our kids now are in 30s and trying to run the country in organizations and they can't stop doing it. Screen. It's going to be, I don't figure that out. Here's another one. Inability to say no to other pressures. I keep getting pulled into things that aren't my responsibility. I'm just so completed. I got to do it all the time. And you can't finish anything because your head's cut off, right? You're just like a chicken running around like crazy. I just can't say no. Well, if you can't say that means that you have a balance problem. The fear of failing. What if I try and still fail? I can't be seen as incompetent. I can't be seen. And so it can lead to perfectionism, procrastination, outright avoidance. I mean, just failure is a big one. The big one for people. I can't. It's not one more time. It's not the failing per se. It's being seen as a failure. It feels way too uncomfortable for them. And so instead of going trying, trying. No. Why not? Loving yourself means understanding that healthy discipline of completing tasks and keeping your commitment. You just finish the job. The scripture is a full example of people who did things and finished the job. I love what Paul. I didn't put this quotation on Timothy before. Paul says, I have kept the faith, I've run the race, I fought the good fight. It's a different order, but I finished. I did the job. I kept my faith in all the hell I've been through on earth. I finished the task which I was called. I've been an evangelist for the next how many years, 20, 30 years. I've preached the gospel all over the known world. I did my job. Is there an opposite of that where you freak if you can't finish it? Yes, ma'am, there is an opposite of that. That's right. Yeah, so then I would say if someone feels almost an obsessive desire to finish the task, yeah, then I'm also going to ask the person what is that. And that's also characteristic, of course, of obsessive compulsive disorder or certain forms of autism. A certain form, that's very common too. They've got to finish the task once it loops. They have a ritual. It becomes a task to click 5 times or to say certain sounds, yeah. And that's another thing. Yeah. So again, you ask the question, how do I feel if I can't finish the task right now? Like, for example, I feel scared, or I feel anxious, or I feel, well, that's worth exploring. And I go, why is that? Where does that wound come from that makes you, what are you nervous of? What are you afraid of? What are you afraid might happen? And again, if you know me, but I'll work at it. But if you do it without judging it, just ask. The first thing is, what am I afraid of? So far, in all, on this little footnote, in all my counseling experience, no one has ever yet given me a fear that sounded stupid. Ever. I say this in counseling. No one's ever said, I'm afraid of a pregnant unicorn. Well, where did that come from? Even if they said it, I'd still go, okay, why are you afraid of that? And even if they said that, it probably came from a childhood thing where some guy molested and they had a unicorn in their hand. I mean, it always makes sense. And so I asked that part of myself, what am I afraid of? What am I afraid of what happened? And then sometimes you can't think about it. You go, well, think about child care, your caretaker. Were there opportunities to that? Did you get really, really fussed at by mom or dad if you didn't finish the job right now? Did you have to clean the house before you went outside? Did you have to make sure all your toys are up before you did blank? Did you have to, yeah, I did. Well, there you go. So you carry this fear with you that if I don't do this, I know people do the same thing with cleaning their house, right? If it's not spotless before someone comes over, they feel terrible anxiety. And then anxiety spills out in their family members. How can you just sit there? Help me! Help me! And like you live in the Presidential Palace Museum and the Queen lives there, and and that's all from because their mom or dad felt that pressure too, that they got from their mom or dad, and they passed on to their kids, and then you grow up with panic attacks if someone comes over. And I've known many people. No, no, please don't come over. No, 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 I got to clean up. Versus, I mean, in my own family, several times I tell Lane, we don't live in a museum. It's orderly, but people stop by, and she's gotten so much better because she was raised in an environment where it had to be, if someone could come over, start dusting the floorboard. Not that bad, but kind of. To which she was appalled when she heard me say, they can leave. I said, they can, I said it again. I'll say it again. Leave. This isn't prison. They can leave whenever they want. They don't like, I didn't vacuum perfectly. They're free to go. You know? So anyway, that's another one. Yeah, if you overly punctilious with task completion. So yeah, any question or comments about that? Thank you. Anybody else? Hello? Anything else about that? We have a handout on the back table if you want it. If you want it. On page 14, any question or comments about that? Nope. All right, the tongue. It can be very difficult to say no to our desire to use talking for healthy and loving reasons. Our words have power to build or destroy. And that old childish adage of sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Gibberish. I mean, it's gibberish. Nonsense. It's a way for a person who's been bullied to say something to the bully to stop. And I understand that. But it's ridiculous to think they'll never hurt me. Physically, they don't harm me, but they do hurt feelings. Of course they do. Of course they do. And we will be held accountable for every careless thing we say. That's what Jesus said, Matthew 12:36. Every careless thing we say. The tongue can be the source of blessing or curse. That's what James said. How can you bless God on the one hand, the next breath curse your brother or sister? It blesses when we encourage, we validate, we exhort. It can be an internal boundary problem when we use talking nonstop to avoid intimacy. If I keep talking, no one will ask me hard questions. That's a very common. I've known people. I heard the other day, the guy said, I haven't talked to my wife in 17 years. I didn't want to interrupt her. Now watch the husbands who laugh the hardest. Let's see. There's some truth to that. I've been around, particularly female, some guys too. They do not. It is from morning. If you're around them, as soon as they get near you, they start talking. I don't know how they breathe, and they don't want to stop because they want to avoid intimacy. The more they talk, the more you're not talking, which means the more you can't ask them questions about them. It's a false boundary. I will constantly control the conversation. And those people who talk all the time tend to be charming. They've got 5,000 stories. They just will not stop talking. They don't want to stop talking. They don't want you to ask them anything about them. They can control the degree to which you know me, because I will control what stories come out of my mouth. And it's going to be a funny story about something else or something that happened to me. But that's you're avoiding it. Your words aren't being used for building people up. It's to avoid knowing people. Or anecdotes or anyway. Okay. Dominating conversations to control others. If I control the discussion, I control the relationship. And that's the domination. That's not so much you won't stop talking. That's in a conversation. You you act like a baby kind of bully. You just change the subject, talk about you. You just start dominating conversation. And if people do that, that's the way to control the Again, you can avoid intimacy that way too. You gossip to feel important or to punish others. I'm such a good person. You know how bad they are. Or I look important because you're in the know. I didn't know that. Wow, you always know what's going on. You must be a really important person. That's the belief of gossip. Well, I knew things you didn't know. I'm more important than you. That's using words for very unhealthy reasons. Using sarcasm. People get this wrong all the time. They do. Sarcasm is irony expressing hostility, contempt, or criticism. Irony, if you haven't been at school a long time, forget. Irony is when you say the opposite of a thing. Uh, the opposite in literature, irony is when the opposite of a thing happens that you don't expect. So if you say, I chose that day on Saturday because the weather says it's going to be crystal clear outside, so we picked that day to have the wedding outside, and it rained. That's irony. The exact opposite thing happened. So just like when I said Elena's so mean, she's so mean all the time, that's not sarcasm, but it is irony. Sarcasm is used irony to express hostility, contempt, or criticism. It's just a joke, but you meant it. Wow, this is the best food I've ever had. Thanks, honey. Right? You don't mean that. Not the best. You think it's horrible, but you're saying in a way that expresses hostility. Sure, let's do what you want to do. I can't wait. Good to hear from you. Wow, you must be really, really busy. It's been years. Any mom said it before or whatever. The Greek sarkazine, was where sarcasm comes from. It means to tear flesh or to gnash the teeth. So it is not irony. It's irony to express subversive contempt or hostility. Personally, I despise sarcasm. That was one of the rules in my home. Not my family of origin, but my own home as children. My own kids, my wife says I disallow 100% physical violence and sarcasm. I disallow it. And so I've always said, nope, and they can testify. No, don't be sarcastic. We don't do that. If you have something you want to say, you can say it. You can say it a different way, like, it makes me mad when he does this, or I feel sad when this happens. Say that. Say how you feel. Don't be sarcastic. It's mean. It's childish. It's not helpful. It hurts people's feelings. So sarcasm is not. That's using words to express something in an unhealthy way. Versus, I feel a lot of anger when you do that. I'm going to process my own anger. This is my responsibility. But boy, that makes me angry when you do that. That's not sarcasm. What about making threats? Right, to express direct hostility. If they don't do what I want, I'll make them regret it. I will kill you. I will hurt you. I'll this. That's using words to punish, demonstrate hostility. When you give disingenuous praise, you flatter people all the time. I've known people do that. You know, oh, you're the best. Oh, and they're doing that just to ingratiate you. That is to make you think well of them. And then along with it, and this is a lot of females and fellow girls do. A lot of girls give into this a lot with guys, particularly narcissists. Narcissists and borderline personality disorder, and also sociopaths, they have what we call love bombing, colloquial language for love bombing. They will praise you and they'll say, I love you. Like you just met them a few hours ago. They love you. They'll give you gifts. They'll love bomb you to snot. They'll praise you and pray you're the most fun. You're an angel sent from heaven. You're just good. And they're like, this guy is incredible. I've never met a person who made me feel so good about myself. And then they got you. And you don't listen to all your friends and family go, you just met him and you were drunk. Do you remember all that? Remember you shouldn't be doing any of those things? Let's see what happens. And has he met your friends yet? Has he met? No, he's real busy. Hmm. So he doesn't want to meet anybody that care about him. I mean, that's your sign. People can do that. Manipulate. Master ones are good at it. Woo. They are good at it. So what? So people can't praise people, David? Sure they can. Sure they can. You just wait to see what happens, right? You see what I can praise and see what happens. But if it's overwhelming praise, that's not. And of course, seduce with words or false flattery. I manipulate to get what I want. Praise can be I flatter to get what I want. This one is I manipulate, charm to get what I want. Loving yourself well and discipline your speech to reflect truth, grace, and wisdom. That falls in Ephesians 4:29. So we use our words to reflect truth, grace, wisdom, encouragement. We talk and we listen. When we speak truth. Gossip. Any questions or comments about that? This sin, and it's gossip, for example, is a sin. I mentioned way more than many other sins that people in churches typically talk about. Except for me, I try to say, I mean, it's a big deal. Of all these, sarcasm really hurts people. Hostility is all these are horrible. The ones I think cause the most damage are typically gossip and threats. Sarcasm, those three. They destroy churches. They destroy organizations. I mean, I've seen them just. It is rough. You got to control our tongue. So back to the question of like paying for people's meals. If a person said, "Why do I have a problem being sarcastic? Why I have a problem?" That's worth exploring. That's worth exploring. It might be the case. I've known people who are sarcastic because in their family, their family of origin, their origin families, mom and dad's caretakers, whatever. In that environment, they were disallowed to say what they really thought and felt, so they could express how they felt in an indirect way because that was socially acceptable. If I said, "It makes me sad when you spank me that hard, and I don't feel like I deserve it, and I get mad at you," that was intolerable. But I can be sarcastic. It's an outlet, not a healthy outlet, but it's some relief valve, and I just never got out of it. Or that's my parents taught me. They were sarcastic all the time. Or my dad threatened people all the time. Or my mom dominated conversations. Or sometimes we just learn the behavior. And you don't mean it. You just don't. But it's just worth exploring. It's just worth it. Why do I do that? What am I scared of? You might do another one on tongue. I should have maybe another one that says you never talk ever. Not because you have a disorder, but you just refuse to talk to people. I just won't open up. That's also a way. A lot of times that happens because you have such bad shame. Oh, they don't care about me. Why even have a view? Why even breathe the air into my vocal cords? They don't care. They're already mad at me. I'm already mad now. Forget them. Hi, Bob. What? I know you just like me. All right, bud. See you later. I mean, we just build up in our mind these parts sometimes. So sexuality, I think, the the chief sin of American culture of the church for sure. Absolutely, this has torn everybody apart, torn churches apart, it's torn families apart. It can be very difficult to say no to our desire to use sexuality outside of God's limits. It's just the sexual struggles, whether in thought or action, they often lead to shame and self-hatred and reinforce behavior. I said that with food. I said eating, food, and sexuality tend to be the most self-shaming, self-hatred behaviors. They just tend to be um, common ways sexual boundaries are broken, compulsive masturbation, using pleasure to escape from loneliness, stress, or pain. That's like compulsive purchasing on Amazon. It's just another way to get pleasure. Compulsive relationships, sex, or relationship. It's a sign. When I've known kids, boys and girls, they go from boyfriend, girlfriend. That that very well could be a sign of there's not only sexuality probably going on, but it's an emotional thing going on. And girls tend to struggle that much more than boys do. They tend to. But it, that that these are absolutely worth talking about with people. We need to really figure out why you go jump. When I graduated kindergarten, it was a big deal to me. Okay, don't look at me like that. It was a big deal to finish kindergarten. And one of the teachers told my parents, you may not know this, there was one of the major pill manufacturers in the country at the time was a company called Carter. Anyway, she said they told my mom and dad, they said this about me, Joy. They said David has more girlfriends than Carter has pills. Now, why would they say that, Joy? I only had one girlfriend that I remember, maybe two. But she said, David, when you talk about your default relationship, all these girls are, Dad, it's not my fault. They come after me. They chase me on the playground. David, never mind. You're right. What are you going to do about it? Pornography addictions, right? I don't want to get connected. Pornography, most of the time you talk to in counseling, you talk to people who are struggling with pornography, men and women, there's an intimacy problem. They feel very inadequate to feel bonded with a person emotionally. And there's a bonding issue. Typically, again, it's not the pornography, it's like using, it's not the beer, it's not the meth, it's not the crack. Those things are almost always not the issue. Those are things to avoid pain uh, or deal with something like we've already talked about multiple times. Same with pornography. Very, very, very few times. There's addiction probably in the brain, no doubt about it. But if you get kind of past that, because there's a lower level, that's the issue of I feel so inadequate, I can't deal with people, so this is the way to avoid that. So when you deal with those things, it helps in things. Prostitution, transactional sex. I get power, control. Exhibition and voyeurism. You gain attention or dominance over other people because I can watch you. You can't make me. I always think about this example all the time, and I'm sorry, I don't respect what that stupid thing. Y'all heard me say from the stage multiple times that in American culture is that you're not hurting anybody. That's one of the stupidest things I've ever heard when it comes to ethics. Voyeurism doesn't hurt anybody. What would you think if a man staring at your daughter and she's 6 years old showering? Hey, he's not hurting anybody. High five. Get some binoculars. Get your friends over here. Isn't this good? This is healthy. It's as stupid as not. I could list a whole host of ethical things that are horribly immoral, and they don't harm someone's body. They harm you. They harm the person. It's unethical. And so when people do this, other stuff gets so accepted because it's quote not hurting anybody. Not only is it illegal, it's unethical. One might argue gross, but it's a form of getting attention, but also dominance. I can control you. You are an object for my sexual pleasure. That's all you are. And of course, just obscene behavior. Just harassing, threatening, coercing others sexually. Use the sex as a tool. So sexuality can be, and I could give other examples, but loving yourself means experiencing your sexual desires within healthy, heterosexual, monogamous Christian relationships. And I know, as I've said multiple times on the stage to move on quickly, I know how profoundly controversial what I just said is. I've had people leave churches over what I just said, that Jesus did not support any other kind of relationship. It breaks up families. The entire Methodist Church is divided over this issue. The entire Methodist Church is finally divided on this one issue. It is ripped apart, people. So all I'm saying is, if you read Matthew 19, 3 to 12, and Mark 10, and on, Jesus had one Jesus. That's it. If he's the Lord, he's the Lord, and do what he says. If not, then that's fine. Just don't say you're a Christian. Just say, I like some things Jesus said. He's my buddy. But we disagree on things. Don't say he's your Lord. If he's your Lord, this is it. Little footnote, too, when it comes to the counseling side. I have never in my life, I'm not omniscient, and there are people who do nothing but specialize in sexual disorders and paraphilia, things like that. Paraphilia is the word we give for behavior that's on the outskirts of normalcy. Homosexuality, that used to be paraphilia all day long. It's part of the disorder, and now it's got over normal sexual behavior. People start ticketing for that, changing it. But still, there's still something called paraphilia, like pedophilia, for example. But now they're trying to push that to where that's no longer paraphilia. That's just minor attracted person, MAP. So that's also the name. They're trying hard. Everything else on the outskirts. As soon as people start, quote, judging it, they want to move it to normalcy. But all that to say, in my experience, and the people I've researched, people I've read, these examples I give here, compulsive masturbation, relationships, pornography, none of these people have a healthy life. You just forget Jesus for a second. None of these people are living the life, their best life now, they're being told them to live about. None of them are. Their quality of life is horrible. They are slaves to these things. They don't know who they are. They are no one but that person who's in a relationship. Chasing after boys, chasing after girls, chasing after porn. My son said last night when we were talking about this stuff, some of this, he said, I remember distinctly, we have a lot of great dogs. He said, I remember distinctly on 6th grade, my first day at a new school we moved to Kansas. He went from a Christian private school, where his mom's the head of school, to this public school. He said, the very first day I was sitting in choir, I came and sit with two 6th graders, and he told a long story about all the porn he looked at last night with his other dude. He described it. Hayden said, I never had any exposure. I didn't know what he was talking about. So every day for months, when Elaine would pick him up from school, he said, Mom, what's a threesome? Mom, what's oral sex? Mom, what's giving head? Mom, what's the every day? Every day. It was nonstop, constant sex. So she'd come home and fuss at me, why can't you pick him up? She'd say, just once. I don't want to talk about sex. But she would say, good question, honey. You're the best shot we can. But I'm telling you, that's 6th graders. I mean, it's the average age of porn now. It's 11. We are so screwed up on it. We're at. Only Jesus can change it. So I've never met people like that who have healthy, productive lives, even without Jesus, ever. This stuff. They act like it does. Substance abuse. I'm gonna say this real quickly. Any questions or comments about that? Sorry. Any questions or comments about that? Yeah, we chatted. Yeah, the Oscars. Yeah, the one that won all the awards. Hayden said they spent the exact numbers, like 3 million on the film and like 11 million on Oscar promotion to get the award. And they won 4 awards, Oscar or something. And the main movie, yeah, was about a prostitute who has rampant sex. I watched about 12 minutes of it. You know, it's disgusting. I get fast forward, I'm like, what? This got great reviews. What? This is horrible. But that's what our in the award ceremony they kept saying. I mean, if I heard once, I heard 5 times. The director, the producer, we were so glad to honor sex workers. We got to hear their stories and honor all the sex workers, and people were going crazy applauding. Take out sex workers but pedophile. That's something that I'll do that for you. Next year, Jeffrey Epstein's going to get the award. We've changed our mind. He is the hero of America. Look what he was able to do. He got, and his friends got all these kids. Man, it's good stuff. He is one of our heroes. He started them young too. Why wouldn't they say that? Like, what? Why wouldn't they? We're just evolved chimps. I mean, why would you stop? Once you start, but there's no reason to stop. But non-Christians will be non-Christians. Christians should be Christians. And that's why I get worked up at Christians. I like Christians. I do not. I like non-Christians. Substance abuse. Thank you for that, Bonnie. It can be very difficult to say no to our desire to use addictive substances. Bottom page 15. People who suffer from alcohol and drug dependency often lack internal boundaries. They numb pain. They escape reality. They feel in control. They avoid feelings. Why addiction is rarely about the substance. It's typically an unhealthy coping mechanism for deeper wounds. Christians must never get drunk. We are told explicitly not to get drunk. Ever. Ever, ever. Or deliberately seek to use a substance to lose self-control. Self-control is the fruit of the Spirit. Now, I say that on purpose. That wording I did on purpose. Seek to use a substance to lose self-control. Well, David, sometimes I take medication that makes me sleepy, but I didn't take it to lose self-control. That is, we know the difference between I used a healthy over-the-counter drug medicine to help me sleep tonight. But if I use the same medication to numb my pain and not deal with reality, you're substance abuse. Right? That's the whole point. It's not the thing itself. And that is my view. I don't think it's inherently simple to smoke crack. It grew on leaves and trees. I go smoke bark. Hey, if that floats your boat, you want to kill yourself? Kill yourself. Christians don't do that, though. Christians don't deliberately smoke things or eat things or drink things that damage their body. Christians don't do that. We don't do that. We value ourselves so much. Jesus says, love your neighbor as you love yourself. That's the whole point of this session. No, I would never do something to hurt myself. Why would you just go put your mouth on the bottom of the exhaust in the car and just breathe it in? Yeah. Better yet, let's get a whip and just whip myself in the face every day all the time. Well, it feels good when I stop. That's why people beat themselves in the head when they're in a bike board. They put a straight jacket on, they'll beat their head on the side of a wall. They say, why do you do that? Because it feels good when I stop. The endorphins finally start settling my body. Humans are stupid. We do stupid things to avoid pain. But Christians don't do that. Christians go, Lord Jesus, I want to give all this to you. I'm not using substances in order to avoid things. I'm not eating food to avoid my pain. I'm not using sexuality. I'm not doing any of this stuff to avoid things. But David, I get nervous. Then let's process the nervousness. For addiction recovery, you must set boundaries in 3 areas. Period, or you won't make it. Period, or you won't make it. Your environment, you have to avoid people and places that encourage addiction. You have to, your emotions, learn to cope with pain without self-medicating. And your relationships, you have to get accountability and support. Notice what I didn't say. I didn't say you have to have good willpower. Nope. I didn't say you need some good Bible verses. Bible verses don't cure addiction. They don't. Church won't cure addictions. I've met many addicts who come from addiction and then get addicted to Jesus. And they are fanatical Christians. They're more Christian than Jesus is. They quote the Bible left and right in every translation you've ever read. They will talk in spirit. They'll scream and holler at Walmart about it. And then they burn out, because that's what happens with addicts. They ride the waves of addictions. And I've seen it. As soon as I meet them, I go, you're addicted. I don't say this. I think, you're probably suffering from addiction to personality. And so now it's not drugs, not heroin. Now it's being involved at a church and being seen as repentant and being seen as a servant. And they're going to ingratiate the pastor by praising me profusely every time you see me to make sure I keep loving you and welcoming you in the church community. And all the while, none of that's true. You're already welcome. But they'll just ride away with addiction. Loving yourself means not exposing yourself to substances that destroy your body, mind, and soul. And without the true thing, uh, you do it. You'll help. So, and also notice what I've said too in all these things. None of these things. That at no point do we say it's really important to start judging yourself. It's really important to start saying how horrible you are. No, no. I do struggle with that. My boundary problem here. Let's explore that. Let's explore that. What's going on? Top of page 16. Remember, saying no to yourself is not about restrictions, but about freedom. True boundaries liberate rather than imprison. They really do. I know how big my sandbox is. I can play all the sandbox. It's not about, oh, I can do it. Self-discipline protects joy and purpose rather than stifling them. It does. It really does. Everybody I've ever met that I admire in some level, they'll say, man, I've heard this so many times. One guy, I remember he was a powerlifter and bodybuilder and stuff. He said, I've never ever in my life felt so but focused on life when I had discipline my exercise in my gym. It just felt so like that self-discipline, man. It gave me purpose. And I'm like, you're right. There's a degree to that. It is. Sitting on the couch all day long, eating bonbons, whatever people do, they don't feel this. They don't feel joy and purpose. Self-discipline gives them that. And Jesus calls us to deny ourselves daily. We've not done it daily. But not in a way that leads to self-hatred, right? It's not that. It's an abundant life. So these areas, A, B, C, D, food, and sexuality, and words, and all these things, they're not prison sentences. These are all signs that we have no boundaries. When we start establishing internal boundaries, then we are free. And I'm telling you, it's true. The healthier I get, and I'm on my journey, whew, I'm still on my journey. I'm not arrived. I'm not arrived. But on my journey in these areas of life, and I haven't told you my testimony because it's time. But I can go through almost all of these. Go, oh yeah, there's a time I struggle with that. Oh, a time I struggle. Oh, I'm still on that one. Oh, I'm still. I mean, I do. I read myself in some of these sometimes. I said last time I did about money, particularly. I said impulse spending. I said I'm still working on that. Before you finally have money, like I feel like if I don't get it right now, I'll never get it. So I can read myself. I mean, all I'm saying is I want to, and the healthier you get, the more it's liberating. You go, shh. Why is that? Because to be stuck on these things is slavery. It's slavery. And then I have a thing about why can't I say no to myself? But I want to pause there. We've got about 3 minutes left. So I want to pause there. Any questions or comments? We'll probably pick back up there. Why it's hard to say no to yourself, and what can you do about it? And I'm going to give you some real tips next week on what you can do to get good at internal boundaries. But on these things we talked about, A, B, C, D, E, EFT, anything questions or comments that come up? Anything at all? So if a person's talking a whole lot, that excessive talking if you're at work, and they're bothering other people, how do you address them? Yeah, as a supervisor, then you have to say, hold on, in my view, is always based on Matthew 19. The principle of Matthew 19 is that if someone's sinning, you do it one-on-one. I think it's to avoid embarrassment. So in general, I would pull them aside and in a cool moment to go, I think it's fantastic that you have a relationship with people and talk. I think that is great. But I'm asking going forward that we can't talk as much. So if you want to talk, if I want to talk shop about the weather, whatever, please do it at lunchtime. Please do whatever because it's limiting how much a person gets the job accomplished. And so I want to make sure everyone's role and time is honored, including yours, that I wouldn't let someone occupy all your time. So I'm just asking, please, something along those lines going forward. Then if they're addicted to it as an employer, you have to be their parent. That is to say, in that role, you have to establish boundaries for them. This is unacceptable. This you cannot do. And if you break these boundaries, you're the consequence. You have to do that. If you're an employee, you have to say. So you're not parent because you're telling them you ought not do that. What's wrong with you? I don't mean that. What I mean is, like a parent to a child, you're establishing boundaries. At work, we don't use cell phones. We don't check our Facebook. We don't do that at work. You cannot do that. Do you understand? Yes or no? I mean, would you comply with that? And I tell people, I tell them, I respect your boundaries. You can say no. That's complete. This isn't prison. It just means you can't work here. That's all. It's a contract. The deal. We're adults here. You can say no. I want to check Facebook every minute. Okay. Well, I'm sorry it didn't work out. I wish you the best. God bless you.